Right?
Okay.
Let's make a redeemable.
Let's make it
PC.
redeemable. Okay.
Now, the first thing that I need to make sure, there's 2 starting points.
Make sure
you got your ticket. There's 2 starting points for a redemption arc.
no one can save themselves. You can't save yourself. Oof. Or you would have already.
I'm gonna dare to ask why. Why is redemption a holiday hallmark experience? Bribing, feeding, training, kindness.
Charm person.
Gratuitous dominate and charm spells.
Yes. Back once again.
I mean, that's one way to get out of the mall parking lot.
Right?
Yeah. How you doing?
Good. Season's greetings.
The greetings of seasons to you.
Right.
How you doing?
All the
happy?
seasons.
All the seasons?
All the greetings.
All the greetings. It's not Samhain. What is it? Solstice?
Solstice. Yes.
The other S word.
The other S word.
Well, before I say the other S word, I better read the note.
Yeah? There's no note on the floor this time, on the table.
No, it's prestidigitated right over there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Read exactly what's on the note, or be destroyed and replaced. Welcome to Caffeine Cantrips, the show where we talk about D&D or else. Hi friends, merry ho-ho. It's that season again, and while the elves of a particular jolly archfey are finally able to take a day off, we're coming at you with our last episode of the year. It's been a great year. We thank all of you who are new or are long-time fans for coming along this journey, and that's the greatest gift that we could ask for. Yes. So,
is it though?
In the spirit of the season, we're going to go along with a particularly favored trope for this time of year.
Oh, wait, okay.
Looking at you, Grinch, Scrooge,
McDuck,
and all the people living in New York. So grab some nog, jump on your sled, and we're looking at redemption arcs today for your TTRPG game.
Oof.
On Dancer.
Welcome once again to the very last Caffeine and Cantrips of the year.
Or else.
In today's very special episode, we once again, are going to be talking about redemption arcs for your PC characters. Wait, that's a PC character. That's
PC
character.
That's a redundancy.
And your NPCs / villains.
Redundancy.
I wasn't even listening. It was very funny though.
It's pretty good.
No, we're so happy you could join us.
Yes.
But I think without further ado, I'm just gonna sled right on into it.
Slide, yeah.
All right.
Go ahead, Sean.
All right. I think I'm gonna talk about redemption from the point of view of the player characters, the players, because that's what I like doing. All right. So you want to play a character who can be redeemed, to have that arc of redemption.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
I think there are ways to do this successfully.
Of course.
And ways of doing this more successfully.
That would be the naughty list.
Right? And I think before you get into like even role playing out that redemption story and seeing how that goes and climaxing up and like redeeming someone, you got to prepare some.
The old blue sheets.
Right?
Yeah.
You got to warm it up first.
Sure.
Make sure you're in the right mood.
A little
for a little
foreplay.
Redemption foreplay.
Yeah.
So before you even start anything, I think what you got to do is to remember that before you can get on to redeeming anything, you got to make time to wallow in your sins.
Oh.
Right? And before I get into this, I want to say that the execution of a player character redemption story is different than an NPC redemption story.
Absolutely.
And how you go executing that, right?
Absolutely.
Just because the roles and the dynamics of a DM is different from the players.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to start with this question first. Why does your character need redemption?
Okay.
Right? Your character needs something to be redeemed from.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And in order to have, I mean, you can be redeemed if you want from slight rudeness, but it's way less meaningful. Right? I feel like people want, when they do redemption stories, they want to be sort of explore something really bad in a character, and then explore the way they get out of that badness.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So typically, your elements that need redemption will be sort of deep-seated character issues that aren't easily solved.
Okay.
Right? Because if they're easily solved, then it's a Mary Sue, a Tommy 2. What's the guy version of that?
I think it's still in working.
I guess I don't want to assume anyone's gender, so
Yeah.
for a minute it could be also be Mary Sue, I guess.
Yes. Mary Sam.
Mary Sam.
Yeah. It's close, but that's without
Sammy
change,
Sue?
right? Like they don't have to overcome
Well, anything. Then it's not
bad flow.
redemption.
Yeah, correct.
It's just,
nor is it an
you know,
arc.
I woke up in a better mood today. So we need some deep-seated character issues in order that takes a long time and a nice story arc in order to solve. That's step one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, we need to very early in your character creation, you're gonna talk about flaws already, probably, right?
Yeah.
But this goes a little bit further into it,
Okay.
right? So like, are they merciless? Are they materialistic? Like really materialistic, really merciless, really cruel, right? And it's should be something that will have serious repercussions for both your players, like at your table, and for the story and the campaign at large.
Okay.
Because it needs to be something to have meaning, and things that have meaning affect the greater dynamic of the storyline.
Okay.
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 So let's establish our flaws, your wrongdoings, and sort of a motivation for that redemption.
Okay.
You gotta go down before you can go up. In this case, right? It's that warm-up process.
Perhaps. Please continue.
Well, I mean, you can go.
Please continue, because
Anyways.
yeah.
So, step one: clearly define your character flaws, mistakes instead of past wrongdoings during your character creation process. Right? Again, these things need to have sort of they can't stay in your background. They need to come out into the actual gameplay
Right.
as well. Okay. And once you decide on what it is, please make sure to discuss these elements with your fellow players, because this can have, and if done right, it will have repercussions on the role play and how the role play sort of manifests at your table, and typically not in positive ways, not at first at least, especially not at this stage.
Right. Okay.
Right?
And we've talked about that before, about having living backstories.
Yes.
Right. It's not just your character's backstory that stays behind them. This is in fact something that they need to elaborate on, and
A little bit like the anti-hero, right?
a lot like
Like
the
you gotta bring the other players on board with your character redemption.
In fact, I would go so far out on the trust limb to say that this is the yin to the yang of the anti-hero arc.
Okay. Which one's the yin? Which one's the yang?
Oh, this one's yang.
Oh, yang it up. So you want to make sure that the other players at your table understand where you're coming from and what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Right? Or else they will think that you're just being difficult at the table.
Exactly. Yes.
Right? Again, it's more than just backstory, right? Because you're going to need to role play this, right? To make this arc meaningful. And because your other players at your table are going to be role playing with you, they got to understand what you're doing, right? Because they're not going to like it mechanically. It's going to be suboptimal, right? You're going to create trouble for the party. That's why you need redemption, right? That's what makes it meaningful. If you're trying to do redemption, but the things you're doing sort of no one minds so much, that just means that there's not much to redeem from it. So then it's less meaningful.
Once again, perhaps, but
Okay.
Yeah.
In general, I'm sure there's exceptions.
I 100% agree with you from what you're talking about right now. I just have caveats and
Of course. I'm not going to let them know the caveats though.
No,
Let them discover it for themselves.
Stay tuned.
So keep that balance in mind when you are setting up
Yes.
your character that needs redemption.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that you really need to make sure of when you bring other people on board is that they understand that you're not trying to block RP when you're doing things.
Okay.
Right? Like, say you, like they're I don't know, they're talking to someone, to a homeless person, and then your character just, I don't know, slaughters them because they hate homeless people for whatever reason.
For whatever
right?
reason. Yep.
Because they're cruel.
Yeah.
Right? The other players need to understand you're doing this because you're setting up redemption. It's not because you're just being a jerk at the table.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to block what they're trying to do, role play wise.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay. And by sort of establishing that compelling motivation for your character's redemption, for both yourself and the other players,
Mm-hmm.
right? Then you can set up a good base to work your redemption from.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay.
And bonus points, if you can tie it to the campaign's overarching plot or your character's personal goals. If you can, talk to the DM.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, it's gonna.
I want to talk about DM a lot, actually.
Yeah.
in this.
Yeah. I will say before you sally too far forward on that, for blocking RP it's different from like the shutdown or the blocking of RP that we've talked about, where you know, or you say no to like the prompts
Just
and the bait and hooks,
yeah.
right? Versus clear communication, establishing turbulent RP. Right? My character is going to be making decisions that are difficult for everyone around them, including themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You guys need to know this ahead so it's not sprung on you.
Right.
And that clear communication will kind of grease the wheels and prevent over friction or friction between the players, not the characters.
Well, because with a character like this, like the antihero, it's easy to not realize that you're blocking RP, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like, say you're mean to the homeless person, and the other PC is like, "Yo, dude, stop doing that. That ain't cool," right? And then your character goes, "No, whatever," and then that's it, and it goes away.
Mm-hmm.
That's blocking.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
But if you say stuff like, because that's what you want, because what you're wanting as a player is to, what you're, I think, attempting to do in that situation when you're saying no, whatever, is saying that I don't want to engage, right? And I'm going to run away.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a way of presenting that in a way that's not blocking, right? Like saying, no, I'll treat them however I want to treat, and you can't tell me what to do.
Right.
I can still express that reluctance to behave well while giving you a hook for the next RP thing, right? So because it's super easy to be like, no, I'll treat them however I want to treat them, and then just peace out. So that's what I mean. Like, just be careful not to block RP in that way.
Yes.
Yeah. And once you set this up, because you need the seed of redemption. And once you have that,
big ass seed.
I know. Look at this thing.
That's a hunker.
Like a hunker,
Okay.
like double the size of a large watermelon. So, and if you do this, you'll have all the ingredients you need to actually role play out the actual redemption arc of your storyline during live role play. Right. But if the seed you don't set it up the seed nicely, it won't have the nutrients to actually give that motivation and the energy for the redemption
To grow. Yes.
To
your
its
metaphor.
ultimate climax.
I never thought of seeds to climax, but then, maybe I have.
Maybe you
Maybe I have. But yeah, no, that's very true, that you have to provide the right kind of the right, like you said, ingredients, but to mix metaphor, right? Like the right nutrients, the right kind of perspective, the right attitude, and the right communication to create a lane for that.
Yes.
Yeah. Just like we try and create a great lane for you to give us a Christmas gift.
Oh,
A Christmas gift of subscribing if you haven't, liking if you haven't,
right.
and maybe even commenting
Right.
if you haven't.
That's like a gift and a stocking stuffer.
Oh, yeah.
All in one.
Nice.
Right?
Nice. I like it. And for Boxing Day, it's 2 for 1. So if you get one, you might as well get the other.
Right?
Yeah.
And no returns, guys. All sales are final.
Store credit, though. No, that's really interesting when you put it forward like that for kind of some of the requirements. But I think like I put some pins into this, right? Where when we're going forth and we're making the character, like you said, there's already built in like those ideals, bonds, flaws, right? But the PHB or whatever book it is that you're getting these out of is not sufficient enough.
Not even.
To really truly provide you the motivation to build your seed in the first place, let alone water it and fertilize it and all that kind of fun stuff, right? So let's jump back a bit into what you were saying and let's make a redeemable, right?
Okay.
Let's make a redeemable.
Let's make it
PC,
redeemable. Okay.
right? Now, the first thing that I need to make sure that we're starting. So there's 2 starting points.
Make sure
You got your ticket. There's 2 starting points for a redemption arc. There's pre-campaign and during campaign.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can be a bad guy or a bad actor, a bad apple, whatever, before the campaign starts, and you can bring your flaws into the game.
Yeah.
Or you can establish yourself as a decent person, whatever decent PC, and then ask for DM insert trauma here. Right. So then my character, they don't lose their parents in their backstory. They lost their parents in the story.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so now I'm falling. Now I'm having to do it. Now the PCs can see me going down before I come back up.
They see me rolling.
So there is 2 places to start when we're talking about redemption arcs. Okay. So do clear that up.
Yes.
When you're figuring out that you want to have a redemption arc. Because if it's during campaign, you have to establish what your character is and who they are before they fall to then jump on the redemption train to come back.
That's like creating 2 characters almost.
Yeah.
I mean, the first one can be a little more shallow.
It certainly can, but it needs to have some merit. I also think
it should be. It's almost like creating 2 full characters, I think.
You're up for the task.
Yeah. I mean, because you want to be a full character and you want to visualize that, the pre-fall, and then you want to visualize the post-fall character as well, right? Like that, so you guys can see better in the camera. Right? So then, because who you were affects who you become, and affects who then become after that as well. So, yeah, okay.
Yeah. I also would like to think then in character A, in their first character, pre-fall character, there's a lot of ways that we can put forward the kind of mirror image of our fault that we're going to have so that you can really see a clear definition of what they are losing, of the qualities that they have.
It's like being your own character foil.
Shed. Yeah, being your own heel. But in a positive way, so you can be negative to be positive again. And you don't actually have to come back to where you started, like a good little hero journey. But just as an aside, there's 2 starting spots for this. So after we've done that, after we've decided where we're going to start our fall or where we're going to start our redemption, rather, I think we talk a lot about the story wheel. At least I do.
Yes, you love the story wheel.
I do love the story wheel because it works in so many wonderful ways. So the trick is that previously we really talked about the front half of the wheel.
Talk about the back half.
This redemption lives in the back half of the wheel. So while we talked about before that kind of first curve, and you can do that as many times as you want, and that's great and that's fun, and that's where you should go if you're simplified, playing a proper, and not saying, like don't try this, but to do a redemption arc is to take the curve, is to go on the dark side of the wheel.
You gotta back that up.
Right? Backwards, forwards, power slide, Fast and Furious. So when we're going, R.I.P. Brian. So just as a quick reminder, right? Your character starts in a zone of comfort. Relate this back. Are they starting in a zone of comfort already on the redemption arc, or are they starting in a zone of comfort and then they're going to have a change? It's going to take them out of that zone of comfort. Right? Remember the 2 starting spots. They're going to desire something. They're going to desire revenge, or they're going to desire to make their life better, or whatever it is, right? It doesn't necessarily be revenge. They're going to enter that unfamiliar situation. That's step 3. Things are going to start happening. They're going to adapt to it. So if this is the falling arc part of this, they're going to adapt to their life on that slide. On the way down, they're going to do something little, perhaps, and then something worse, and then something worse, and then something worse, right? That slippery slope kind of thing that we hear about. It's okay. You can come back from it.
It's a little lie, and a bigger lie,
right?
And a bigger lie.
Now, if they're already down somewhere, they're still doing things and having to adapt to the life that they're in, right? And eventually, once they get through that, you've now got what you wanted. That's the first half of the arc. You got what you wanted. Great. It's the step 2 that we really have to focus on. So that's paying a heavy price for it, coming back to that familiar situation, and having been changed. So how do we do this? We go back to the first half, because this is where you have to start grounding. This is where you build your seed. Right? So then we go into the major question that you're probably asking if you want to be on a redemption arc is, what do I need to be redeemed? Redeemed.
Redemption once again.
Yeah, redeemed. You have to have that flaw. So like I said, PHB isn't probably going to cover it. So what we have to do is kind of figure out what we want. So a great place to start with this is what I would call kind of basic flaws.
Them basic flaws.
Them PSLs. God, they're tasty. So these are things like personality traits. So is your character impatient? Are they shy? Are they arrogant? Shy? Yeah. The quiet one in the corner. You never turn your back on them.
Okay.
Because this is step 1, right? This is setting the foundation block, right? We're obviously going to take this to a place, but like, yes, impatience, shyness, arrogance, stubbornness. What caused that, right? And we'll get a little bit into this in a second, but the next one would be fear of phobias, or fear or phobias. No, fear of phobias.
They're the same thing.
That would be fear of phobias. I'm scared of getting
fear and phobias.
Yes.
Well, they're not the same thing, I guess.
No, I think a phobia is a deeper, more powerful, specific fear, as opposed to kind of a generalized fear. But this could be silly things like fear of heights, fear of spiders, fear of the dark. Now, these are basic for a reason. We're going to add the meat on the bone here afterwards, but you need to kind of pick where you're coming from. Other basic ones that you could build from are, you could just look at like the 7 deadly sins. If you have any kind
fear of gluttony.
Fear of gluttony could be one. Fear of overconsumption, right? Could be a thing. Fear of starvation. Fear of pride. This is where we get into the advanced, right? So where a simple personality trait could have been shyness, we now escalate that into something like a deep-seated trauma. So where does that shyness come from? Maybe it's childhood abuse. Maybe it was witnessing a tragic event that like shut them down. So they're not an extroverted style person anymore. Right now they're introverted. They keep to themselves. They make themselves smaller so they don't get noticed.
Because of those spiders.
Because of those giant spiders that lived in the basement and the attic. I mean, surviving near-death experiences, right? Trauma can shape a character's worldview and their behavior.
Yes.
Right?
Yep,
and so you can either use these fears to come into the campaign with them or use them as a catalyst to set you off the deep end. Right? And once again, these are bases. Another sort of advanced, quote unquote, advanced kind of flaw would be moral dilemmas. So these are past betrayals.
Is that a flaw?
A life of past
traumas,
betrayals.
I guess. Yeah.
The trauma of it. Yeah. well, remember, like you're shaping your worldview.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
So they don't trust anyone because they've been betrayed too many times. So then they learn to trust. Redemption.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
I think so, but you can counterpoint me. Even choosing between like justice, loyalty, having dealt with moral ambiguity, or being forced to have moral ambiguity because of something else that's happened. Now they don't care about right or wrong anymore. These sorts of things can lead to complicated relationships, right? This is perhaps estranged family ties. This is
a great show. It's after the finale of the show. It's the next show.
This is once again, instead of past betrayals, like a history of repetitive betrayals, right? Unresolved conflicts. These relationships can also involve other characters. So this is a character that doesn't trust orcs. Oh, look, there's another orc PC in the group.
Another orc PC.
Maybe there's two orc PCs, but there's an orc PC. So now we have to deal with that character having to come to terms with perhaps a racist look or outlook at this, or a stereotypical outlook at what that they believe that other speciesist, what that other PC is, but that changes in their mind. No longer do they want to kill all the orcs or do whatever, right? Because they understand what's happening.
People too. Yeah.
Orcs are people too, with feelings.
Just rage.
What else could we do? As far as advanced triggers or advanced things to send us off, addictions and obsessions, right? Whether that's substance abuse, could be an obsession with revenge, right? Addiction to power. These sorts of things create ongoing struggles that are going to significantly impact the character's decision-making and their relationships. So now, big banner of warning here and sirens.
Okay.
Right? This is a good reason, when well thought out and communicated, to say it's what my character would do. Right? They're a kleptomaniac, perhaps.
Oh, yes.
Right? My character would steal because it's involuntary to them stealing. I'm not trying to F the party.
Yep.
Right? And I have communicated this. Right? My character is addicted to drinking healing potions. So whenever we go to town, I love it so much. Whenever I go to town, if I see one, I have to have it. Either I'll buy it, I'll do something to get it, or I will steal it, but I have to have those health potions as long as I see it.
Yeah.
Right? These sorts of things can create issues within the party, like I said before, but this is creating turbulent roleplay if it's well communicated, not blocking RP.
Yep.
Right? And that's super important. So all of this is to go forward and inform those first steps.
Yes.
Right? If you know what your flaw is, you know where they're comfortable. You know what they desire. You know how to get them into an unfamiliar situation to get that which it is that they desire, right? You know how to get them to adapt to their new needs or their new wants or what's going on. And then you can get them to get what they wanted. Right? That's the basis, I think, for me, of the redemption arc, to send you on that not linear trajectory, to add that bend to it, to make it an arc.
Yep.
Right? And that's all kind of the first half of the wheel, right? And that's when we get back to the second half, the dark side of the wheel.
Dark side.
Right? Where you need to be really important, or what's really important. You need to be really important. Yeah, to the story, you have to be there. But it's very important that you are aware, if you're creating a redemption arc, that you allow for redemption, right? You need to plan that curve that's going to bring you back to a place of, for lack of a better term, virtue.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So do pay attention that they're going to have to pay a price. I'm not going to say what that price is, but they're going to have to pay. Something's got to break or snap or become stronger within them that they can override this trajectory that they're in to bring them back. But it's going to cost, right? Everything costs something.
All
when you want
character
to make a change, right?
Has a cost. Should.
I think also when you're planning a redemption arc, you need to bring them back to their familiar situation. Now, whether that's their familiar situation in a geographical sense, a mental sense, a sense of, safety or whatnot, there's a place where they need to come back to, whether that's quote unquote home or friends or whatever, right? Where they would have felt uncomfortable, but now feel comfortable in this situation because it becomes unfamiliar because they're now character number 3.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So they got to experience it either as character 1 or 2, but now they're coming back to it in 3. And now it's unfamiliar because it's not what my character would do. It's what my character would have done. And now I don't do that.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. As long as that makes sense.
Yes.
Right. And this is where we finish off the wheel.
A couple hoops I jumped through, but yes.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
I like jumping through hoops. This is where we bring it all the way back to they have changed, right? This is where you can truly see the difference from where they were comfortable in the beginning, everything that they've gone through, everything that they've sacrificed. And now that brings them back to the new version of themselves, right? It's that back half of the wheel that's the hard curve as far as planning, right? And when I say plan, I mean never rely on anything. Because you should have
typical DM.
Typical. Ready
have
to
a plan, never rely on your plan.
Never ever. But I think this is also a great lesson for PCs if you've never done, is you can't necessarily always have your cake and eat it too. I can't plan. Well, I guess I could. But as a PC, you can't plan that at level 10, I'm going to meet an orc with red hair and 1 tooth, and he's going to be nice, and I'm going to figure out that I'm going to, not treat them bad anymore, and then come back around and everything's okay. You can't do that as a PC.
No.
What you can do is express your desires and your plan with the DM, and the DM can pull out those water slide pieces to fit the shape that will customize the experience to allow you to find that.
Yes.
You still have to do the work as a PC. You still have to lean in. You still have to take those hooks and take that bait, even when you don't want to, because it's what the character would do. And that will lead you back into the place where you can find that redemption arc.
That's what my character would do.
I know it's such a hated phrase, but it's...
But if it's true though, like, because there's one way, when some people say it, it's an excuse. When another people say it, it's just reminding you that we talked about this at session 0. Right? Oh, right. Yes, we're going somewhere with this.
Right.
Right? It's not what a character would do. It's more like we're going somewhere with this.
Correct.
It's okay.
Correct.
Right? I'm not just being a jerk.
No,
right?
I'm just trying to PR spin. That's what my character would do.
Right.
Because but I think that is how we start to plan for a redemption arc. So everything that you said, plus everything that we just went through, right? We have to find those things that drive us off being a hero, drive us off that path of virtue.
Yeah.
And make us want to come back on.
Yeah. No, I like this idea you talked about of the wheel, story wheel, right? A place of comfort, right? Something happens, you grow from it, you pay a price and you grow from it. Then the thing about the wheel is you talk about one big one for the redemption arc, right?
Sure.
But as we know that even on each wheel, there's many smaller wheels.
You can definitely...
Right? As you're going up on that arc.
Correct.
Right? And that's how it really should be, or else it becomes really one-dimensional. Right? It's got to be you can't jump from level 1 to level 20 right away. You got to go through level 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Shout out to one-shots.
Hand
back in your level 20 sheets. No. You're right. There is a
for a meaningful
set
story
of progression, right? Now, also remember that you don't have to go around every single piece of that wheel for every single time you go round, whether it's a small goal or the big goal, right? At least when I'm looking at things, right, when I'm building my redeemable character, generally, I like to have an idea of what I want it to look like from level 1 to level whatever.
Yeah.
And then I will subsect my goals, and then I will find my way from A to Z.
Well, those small circles, I think the small story wheel sections, typically they're just very small moments, very simple. Like they're not super complex, right? It's just a loop. Oh, they failed, they come back to something. Well, they succeeded, they came back to something, right? So like they're not super complex like your main wheel is, right? And no, I also like talking about like the traumas and stuff like that. I mean, because you can you can be redeemed from plenty of things, right? Like lying, right? But the significance of your redemption arc is only as powerful as the thing you're being redeemed from is serious and bad and difficult.
One of those orthogonal meaning places again.
Right?
Yeah.
If it's just merely lying, like it's not much compared to murderous hate towards elves. Right? So when you're building out your arc and your seed, keep that in mind as well. Right? How much redemption and how much meaning you want that redemption to have. Because, maybe you just want a slight redemptive flavor in your character. That's fine too, lying. Right?
Yeah.
Or you can make it like, this is my paladin, they fell and they're going to come back. Right? Like something very deep and significant.
Right.
So, and once you have that, I think, set up, it's funny, you talked about how have a plan, never rely on it, because as a player, you can't do anything.
Well, you should always be updating, always be redoing your trajectory, because every setting, you never know what's going to happen in the next session, right?
Yeah. So now that you set it up, and now you're going into live role play, there's something I think you need to remember as a PC, sort of on that redemption arc, is that no one can save themselves. You can't save yourself. Right? Or
no bootstraps here.
Or you would have already as a character.
Oh. Nope.
Right.
That's a great statement. You should say it again.
All right. You can't save yourself. You can't redeem yourself. Right?
No, not that part, the other part.
While it's possible to redeem yourself, it's not particularly interesting RP.
No.
Right? So it's not really, in my opinion, worth doing. Right? As a story. Because you also don't see that very often in media. A character who redeems themselves by themselves for themselves. Right? Because it's not interesting. Right? Like, I can't name any character from any significant movie or book that where that happened. There's always some kind of external stimuli that triggers and pushes that redemptive process forward.
Something's got to bump the train off the tracks.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And the train won't do it.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, exactly. It's just got to go on the tracks.
Yeah.
Right? It's got to have the rocks, the little quarters, the pennies on the
which is why the second thing that you said, I think, was the one that bears repeating.
What did I say?
Is that you can't save yourself, because if you could, you would.
Oh, you would have. Yeah.
Right? Like, you need to, I think that's a great thing to put in there when you're thinking about your redemptible character, is I cannot save myself. I have to have help. That's a rule.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Well, especially to have narrative weight.
Yes.
And meaning. There has to be. Right? Because people, not just PC characters, they're characters.
PCC.
People in general, even in real life, are scared and resistant to change. We hate it, and we're scared of it. Right? Even when you're in a bad state, people get comfortable in it, and they don't, and they fear change, even if they know that change is going to make things better.
Sure.
Right?
Frog in the pot.
And that's why your characters need external triggers, right? This is also how we're going to do the show, don't tell with external triggers.
Okay.
Because it's all, no external triggers, it's all in their head. Oh, I'm just never going to lie again, because I just redeemed myself, guys.
Yeah.
Level 3. So what does that mean? Talk to your DM, right? Because where are those external triggers going to come from? 2 places, your DM and the other PCs.
Yep.
That's all there is in D&D.
It's true.
Right? So your DMs...
Maybe the dice. Every time I roll a 4, I get that.
I get a little bit more redeemed. Like death saves, redemption saves.
Right.
So the DM will, if you talk to them, what you're trying to do to the DM, they can then give you sort of external challenges.
Don't do anything to the DM. Do stuff to the world.
Right? And they can put those supporting characters in your path. The supporting characters in sense of you're in your supporting your story. Right? and put your character in those situations where they can be challenged, where they can be pushed, and they have those mini sort of story wheel chances to slowly be redeemed. Right? From the PCs, we talked about this earlier, but you're gonna need their cooperation for this, right? Narrative cooperation, right? It's important so that the other players again can help you with your role play scenes, to move them in those ways. They can lean into those uncomfortable, turbulent RP scenes, right? So that you can get the right words and emotions out to move your character along that redemption arc.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? Again, and they also need to understand that you're not just being difficult.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Clear communication, like the tag on your present.
Right? And speaking of, you always have a plan.
Oh, yeah.
You should have a plan when it comes to your role play. Right? Some things you can plan for, they come from yourself, so you can do it. One of those things is make sure you understand your character's internal conflict and their eventual guilt for that. Because you don't start redeeming yourself of a bad quality until you feel guilty about it. You know that you've done something wrong.
Right.
And you're going to have to manifest that somehow into the campaign through RP, through gameplay actions.
Great spot on the wheel is when they adapt to it, right? Grief can be an adaptation to what they're doing.
Yep. It'll come out, and that stuff will come out in monologues, in conversations with...
You guys ready for a monologue?
Let me take the skull
Yeah.
for a second.
Hold on, BBG. It's my time to gray box.
Yeah, you gray box, I'm going to gray box. Conversations with other party members. Or you can just role play them sort of visibly struggling when faced with points of redemption.
Yeah.
And what's a point of redemption? It's a point where the character has a decision to make, right? Do they fall back into their sin, or whatever that is, or do they overcome that and sort of take a step forward on the path of redemption? Right? That's what I call a redemption point. It can go either way.
Question.
Right? Yes.
So would you then, since you have a plan, would you plan for moments of redemption on the way down as well as on the way up?
If you're
to kind of bookend the experience,
if it's going to be a slow drop down,
right,
or a quicker one, yes,
okay,
right. It's actually very pretty that way.
Oh,
because you can, if you're like a rock star, remember the decisions that led you down, and then you can mirror those decisions later as you're going up.
Right.
Right. We like symmetry as people.
Nice.
Right.
Yeah.
It means lots of things for us, health, all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
That's why we like people with more symmetrical faces.
Thumbnail. So yeah, but it's curious because I just wanted to ask that because a point of redemption implies that it's putting you back on the right track, right? So you can have points of redemption on the way down to show that you're continuing to make the wrong decisions. But eventually you're going to hit the bottom of the barrel, right? And then you're only coming back.
Yes.
Or maybe you're having difficulty coming back, but you're only coming back after that.
I mean, you can go drop, but the trend is up.
I don't know how much D&D you have to play. 20 levels goes by real fast if you start planning like this kind of an arc.
It depends. If 3 sessions take, it's 1 day. Right?
Sure.
But anyways.
Yeah.
Right? Depends. Depends on how you guys RP, and it depends on your group dynamics, right?
Yeah.
How fast you go through things.
Most campaigns are not long enough to get you to wibble wobble, right? Go down, find your down point, and then I think come back.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
This would be difficult, particularly in a one-shot. Just a quick lesson that they learned.
Quick lesson.
I should not have killed that peasant. I almost killed the dragon with my cannon. I was one miss.
He's still warm.
Yeah. Okay. So we're trying to roleplay now this the gradual change and growth out of redemption, out of sin into redemption now.
Right. No more wallowing.
Number one, we've done that already. We've established what the sin is.
Yeah.
Right. What the bottom is. Now, I want to talk about redemption milestones. You can also do the same thing, I guess, for falling.
Okay.
But redemption milestones. Again, planned, it might not work, but have it in mind, right? So try to envision key growth milestones, right? And what those scenes might look like. Not the details, because the details will, you don't know, right? And also talk to your DM about it, right? When it's like, I'm thinking about this kind of thing. I don't know when it's going to happen with who. And hopefully if they drop it in front of you, you recognize it, right? Keep these points in mind, right? And I think some of these are probably the same across all redemption arcs. Okay, the first one is the acknowledgement of wrongdoing, right? What is that? What does that look like, right? The moment where your character realizes what they are doing is wrong and that they should not continue to do this.
Okay.
Right?
Now, do they have to do it, or can that external influence do it for them?
No, they have to realize.
They have to do it. Okay.
Right, because while you can't redeem yourself, you're the one as a character who has to walk the path.
Sure.
To do it, right? And if you don't realize you're doing something wrong that you need to walk, then you won't. Right? Okay. Step one is realizing that you need to go somewhere.
Okay.
Step two is rejecting the old habits, right? Moments where this will happen a lot. Like, oh, this is where I would usually do this. I need to stop doing this.
Yes.
Right? Those points, you don't need to know, like plan out what those scenes look like, but you need to know that these are the type of scenes that you need to look for.
Right.
Like chances for you to reject your old habits. Right? And along with that, chances for you to demonstrate your new values. Right? Rejecting my old habits is, oh, I shouldn't lie. Before I would just lie just for fun. But now I'll like, yeah, I'll stop lying. Right? When it's easy. Right? Not for fun anymore. Demonstrating your new values is something like, if I lie, I will gain benefit. If I don't lie, I'll get a disadvantage. Right? Look for those type of sort of points in the storyline where you can demonstrate your new values and sort of demonstrate personal sacrifice in the manifestation of your new value. Oh, I'm going to tell the truth anyways, because what I lose for lying is worse than what I gain from lying. Yes. Yeah? Does that make sense? Yes. Yeah. Right. So, demonstrating new values. And then eventually, it's going to ramp up to a point narratively, right? Just like in our...
Like this for those on the...
Yes, typical, right? The rising action, there's going to be a climax, right? And there is the test of faith. Right? There's going to be at some point where it's going to be the most difficult decision for them. Do they demonstrate their new value at this point where it's the most difficult or not? Right? And in a story, you must pass that point in order to be redeemed. It's that test of faith. Right. And a lot like the hero's journey. Like, this is the point where there's going to be the most change. What's the price that they pay? Yeah. What are you laughing at?
Well, just because you get to the peak and then you've got the denouement, right?
Yeah.
Like the new man, right? The denouement.
Oh, yeah,
right? So you're just like, you're a new man after you do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a purpose.
and then at the end, then you have that final act of redemption.
Yes.
At that point of...
At the test of faith.
Yeah. Right? Done. If I can do this, I can do anything. Right? Type of thing.
If you can make it there.
Yeah. Right. And that's the main points in that story arc, I think. Right? There are other ones that you should look out for. I think like facing the consequences of your actions, of your sin, basically, of lying. That's how they learn. Yeah. Right? The external.
And that's another great one of those points of redemption that you talked about, or milestones, right? Where you would have done it one way, but now you're doing it the other, and now you're increasing your guilt and whatnot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It creates great RP and more meaning. You want to look for points where you can confront your personal demons about this issue. as a
You
player.
were ready for that CR value.
yeah. Your own personal demons.
Personal, yeah.
Right. Again, it just enriches your RP, enriches your character.
Correct. Yeah.
You might want to look for points where you reconcile with the self.
Mm-hmm.
Again, not as important as the other ones. The other ones are right up there. Every redemption arc kind of needs that. These ones are just enriching the experience.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I think the last one maybe is points where you can get forgiveness from others for the things that you've done wrong.
Forgiveness from others.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Or forgiveness of others if that's your particular brand of sin.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, like keep those sort of scenes in mind. Like I said, keep it nice and loose, because exactly if you say like, oh, I'm going to talk to, an orc who has 2 different color eyes that talks with a lisp, and then he's going to say this, and I'm going to then I don't know. It's not going to, it'll be very contrived.
Yeah.
If the DM forces that into the scene.
Yeah.
So, but the DM, because if the DM knows about these points of redemption, they'll hopefully throw that out for you, or the players might throw that out for you, right? Because these are external acts that trigger internal change. As a player, you can deal with the internal change. You can't do anything about the external stimuli.
Yeah.
And that's why you need
Ooh.
the PC and the DM.
Okay. Yeah. Because they are, they'll do it.
Right? Because you can lie. Like, oh yeah, I'll lie and then he'll get mad.
Yeah.
But it's not your decision for that character to get mad.
Right.
Right. So,
Right.
Yeah. And I think if you have that in mind, your journey towards redemption will be interesting and meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely more. And, when other people share your story, then that's better, right? Because now more people feel like they have a hand in your redemption as well.
Well, and that's what you want. You want everyone to be a part of it at the table, right? Because then they can share in the joy and the sorrow of the failures and the successes,
right?
And all that kind of stuff. So then again, it's a less selfish character arc.
Nice.
Yeah, because some character arcs are just for you yourself. But if you can share that with other players, all the better.
Thus the monologue, thus those kind of moments, thus calling for scenes. Yeah. Well, while they're busy sharing, like sharing across all of your favorite social media.
Oh,
we're there too. We're on Spotify. We're on Patreon. We're everywhere you can get us. Come join us on all of the different platforms.
Yeah. If we're not there, let us know where we're not.
Even come down and join us on Discord and then message us and tell us where we should be, where you're at, because we want to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm just redeemed myself. I'm the best. That's why I clicked on the like and subscribe button.
Nice.
Right?
One quick ticket to heaven, please. But yeah, enough begging for your love.
I'll beg all night.
Dad. Oh. Powerful knees on this one.
But now that you've redeemed yourself in character, or you've been redeemed, because you can't really redeem yourself, I guess, right? That's what I said.
Not yourself.
No. Now what? Right? Unfortunately, PCs and real life people, none of us can escape our past. It's impossible, right? Especially not for stuff like this. Now that we're redeemed, right, we have to remember, like, even though I'm finished this story arc, our past actions leave permanent scars on our character.
Now, this is going to depend on where you choose to end your arc, right? If you're ending your arc mid-campaign, at the end of the campaign, or in the epilogue.
Yep.
Right? Because your test of faith could be with the BBEG.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so now you've accomplished, you're a new person, and you can slide into the epilogue as that changed person. Maybe you don't have to deal with your horrible history, or whatever it is, whatever demons you're running from, right? But if you plan to be redeemed within the campaign, then this is for you,
right? Yeah, this is the phoenix that has arisen from its ashes. Right? It's a changed, unlike the phoenix.
No smoking.
It's changed, right? Because we can't leave our past behind us. It's always with us, right? So You know, they say, like, once you murder someone, just one person, you're always a murderer.
Oh, that's not how I heard that go, but yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, say it another way.
Save 100 people, but murder one, you're always a murderer. Yes, absolutely.
Right? So, like, being a non-murderer, it's like being a virgin. You can never go back. You can never go back.
Okay.
Once you lose it, you can never go back. Okay. It'll stay with you forever. What?
Get in the comments.
Get in the comments.
Yes.
So who are you, though? Like, think about the repercussions of what your character has gone through when you're role playing. If you get to role play.
Sure.
Some more after that, right? In that story arc, that story wheel that we talked about, what is it that they've sacrificed? What's the personal sacrifice that caused the change, that allowed for the change, right? Was it a physical sacrifice? Was it material? Is it temporal sacrifice? And you're like, oh, one of those. I'm going to let you know, though. None of them matter narratively, unless in the end it's an emotional sacrifice.
Yes, regardless of what it is.
Yeah.
You have to care about it for it to matter.
Yes.
Yes.
The character has to care about whatever they sacrificed.
Right.
Right. It bears saying, I think, because it's maybe easy to forget. I think. So what is it? They need to care about whatever it is that they sacrifice, and the bigger it is, the more meaningful that redemption is. Right? Think about what are the consequences of their past actions. You're changed, but in the process, you've left a wake of destruction behind you.
Yep.
Right. So you have to face the past. The past is going to come back at you. Right. And DMs keep this in mind as well. Just because your PC has been redeemed doesn't mean that they're done with the sort of the aftermath of that repercussion of the redemption. Right. So you're redeemed. You understand the full extent of just what you've done. Right. But then you deal with public perception, maybe legal repercussions, damaged relationships, right? Internal struggles, right? It never really goes away, right? Like if I'm a murderer,
my two wolves
right?
are fighting.
And I really loved murdering people, and I stopped.
Oh boy, here I go killing again.
Like smoking. Just because you stop smoking doesn't mean you don't want a cigarette. There'll always be a time where you're like, man, I wish I had a cigarette, right?
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Okay. But I've stopped, so I never do. But that desire is always there. That internal struggle is always there. Right? So you can get to role play that out if you want to. And then role play out the guilt as well. Because you did leave destruction in the wake. Right? Right. And then start thinking about if you've actually sort of repented of that stuff, you need to start seeking forgiveness and making amends. Or maybe not. But think about that. That's the type of thing that characters can do after they've redeemed themselves.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But also remember that some things can never be forgiven.
Yes.
Or be finished with the amendments. Right. And that's perfect.
That's another great scene. Right. How do you react to the person that will never forgive you?
Right. Why? I murdered.
Well, what you did was unforgivable.
Right. Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Right. Okay. Then I will make amends as forever. Right, as much as you can. But so yeah, this is just some ideas what you can do after you're done. Because people think of it as clean, but it really isn't.
No,
because you spend so much time being bad.
You should make it as muddied and dirtied as possible. Right? Just to, I mean, depending on the level of realism and or kind of grittiness that you want to engage with at your table, right? Your rules, your way. Yeah, there should be. I think it's better if it can't be clean, right? Until the wizard drops that wish of just like you are forgiven,
right?
Right. It's just like, oh, but now what? Now the core of my character, the core of their struggles, the core of all that stuff that made them who they are gone. So now they're going to change again.
Well, then I don't like that idea because then it makes everything that you've gone through meaningless.
Right.
Right.
Because you could have just wished it away.
Right.
No, it's the struggle that makes it impactful, makes it emotional, that makes it your story.
Well, and that's what makes the viewers and yourself experiencing it relate to your story.
Right.
It makes it compelling.
Schrodinger's redemption.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, it is. It's both meaningful and non-meaningful.
Super funny. Okay. Well, enough of that mamby-pamby sad stuff. No, it's true. It really is true. And one of the things that you just talked about, I think, is really, really important. Yeah, just one though. It's Christmas. I'll give you one. One. It is more of that effect in the world, right? The muddying of the waters and all that kind of stuff that really creates that compelling story. But I think flipping it, and for the first time, we spent our first hour on PCs. PCs. Gonna move on to NPCs.
Oh, not PCs.
Not PCs, because we just talked a whole bunch. But when we're interacting with NPCs that we want to redeem,
they're different, like we said, right?
Super different.
Super different.
Yep. That's why we're drawing our line in the sand, and I am. And at this point, I think you really need to be the change you want to see.
Okay.
So, what do I mean by this?
Yeah, what do you mean by that?
Well, I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you.
Tell me.
First, I need to say one thing.
Don't make me wait.
Absence. Before trying to redeem an NPC, before going on this path or trying to undertake this, you need to have a conversation to make sure that this is a viable tactic or course of actions to take. Before you spend all this time and then become unfulfilled.
You're a player trying to redeem.
Trying to redeem an NPC.
Oh, okay.
And you're like, oh, Boblin the Goblin. Oh, super cool. He's fun. Let's redeem him. Great, no problem. That's viable. Oh, Forgath the unredeemed, unbroken. Forgath. Oh, I don't know who that is. I do know who that is. Right? The breaker of souls and eater of meats. You're like, okay.
Is Forgath Jewish?
No.
Could it be funny?
I don't know why, but I'm going to leave that alone. So, when you're like, oh, okay, this unstoppable engine of destruction that desires only carnage and chaos, I think he'd look good curled up on a rug in front of my fireplace. I'm going to try and redeem this NPC. Yeah, after you have a big meal, you lay on the floor.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
In my mind, I thought he was like an orc or something, or like an ogre, or like it's curled up.
You could curl up in front of the fire.
Yeah.
It's the holidays. So this may not be a viable course of action. And so I think it's fair to say when you see something unique and possibly unredeemable, and you say to the DM or other players, man, I would love to redeem and or earn this thing's trust and or whatever. And you look at the DM and the DM's like, For Audioland, I am shaking my head no. That's a thing. That's an answer to that question.
You can certainly try.
And you can certainly try, but I have already told you, just like, are you sure you touch the spiky thing covered in poisons and whatnot? That's guaranteed to, You need to understand that there are layers, and if the DM sets out those layers and you ignore those boundaries, don't be angry or like disappointed or whatnot that you didn't get your way just because you couldn't brute force the solution.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
There are NPCs that are not redeemable. There are monsters that are not redeemable for whatever reason. There's a boundary around them that says no. And we have to respect that.
Yep.
There are boundaries that say maybe, and we have to see where the RP goes. And there are boundaries that say yes, and those are just green flags, and we can have fun with that.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
But do understand that it needs to be something viable. And if it's not, and if you got the warning symbols for that, that's on you. That's on you.
That's on you, bro.
It's the worst DM ever. Anyway. So now when we want to be the change in the world, we're going on that path, right? we need to understand then what is the catalyst for change. So if we're going to be that in the world, like you said, as the PC, we have to rely on the other PCs and the DM. And we have to respect that external kind of bumping of our train off the tracks.
Okay.
Right? So if we want to do that to an NPC, we are now the thing that is external to them.
Oh.
So we need to understand, how do we get that train off of its tracks, right? Whatever that's going to take. Bribing, feeding, training, kindness.
Charm person.
Gratuitous dominate and charm spells. Yes. And a lot of glibness, I guess, right? Keep silvery barbs at the ready.
I just want to talk.
I just want to talk. So we need to discover the pivotal experiences that serve as the catalyst for the main villain's desires. Why are they the way that they are? Now, I said main villain. This could just be the target of your redemption.
Right.
But a lot of times we want to redeem the BBEG. We want to bring them back from the brink of whatever it is, if it's possible. Let's aim big, right? Shoot for the moon, end up in the stars type thing, right? But we need to understand what their motivations are, what caused them to become what they are, so that we can address that catalyst and reverse it by being that change. We need to oppose that pivotal experience, right? That one bite of them, that taste of them. We need to get in there and figure out what that is, right?
Yeah.
So exploring and reflecting on their past actions or their history is going to be one of your most powerful forces of change, right?
Yeah.
It's going to show, we talk about the 3 pillars and all that stuff. That's 3 pillarsing a situation when we go in and we try and emphasize the idea that understanding their needs is how we understand the change to create those first steps towards embodying that transition, right? And we also have to understand that the target of the redemption, much like we already said before, you can't redeem yourself or else you already would have, right? The target of redemption believes they are the solution to their own problem.
Yes.
Whatever they're doing is their solution. They are good.
It works.
Right? Their alignment is evil, or right, their how they live in the world is evil, but they believe themselves good.
Yes.
Right? Nobody views themselves as the bad guy,
yeah.
blah, blah, blah. We already covered all that stuff, right? So they already think they have a solution. We need to show them how that's not the right solution or a better solution to what they're doing, right? And so this leads us to leading by example. Otherwise, kind of like the protagonist's role in this catalyst of change.
Oh, okay.
Right? So when we're planning ahead and looking at our own story, we can ask the questions about how we have developed a positive influence in the same sort of moments. In those redemption moments, they failed the task. We succeeded. Now we can lead by example. Hey, you don't have to burn down the village. You can ask them to move. Maybe. That's another option. Hey, you don't have to burn down the village. The road goes around town and not through it, right? We don't have to do what you did. There are other ways of accomplishing this task.
Right.
And now you get more followers because they like that you went around town and not whatever that might be, right? But being the protagonist means being the hero of not only your story, but of their story. And so trying to mimic and override their own kind of selfish protagonist idealism and to replace that kind of with your better solutions makes you the hero, makes you impact the world. Right? And that's difficult. That's not easy. That requires role play. That requires understanding. That requires time invested in learning these NPCs or
Redemption
BBGs.
Paladins, take notes.
Yeah, but not just limited to redemption paladins.
No.
You can be anything and redeem anyone unless you can't redeem them.
Unless the DM gives you a shake of a head.
Period. A big shake. Like hard eye contact and a big shake of the head. And they pull the chip bowl away from you.
Thumbs down.
Yeah.
And they text you, don't come next week.
Yeah. The position's been filled. Sorry. So this
We're
leads.
restructuring. Sorry, we don't need your position anymore.
Oh, we're merging. And we're downsizing it. Anyway, no. Okay, so this leads to what you were talking about.
Yep.
Previously, and this is the ripple effect of redemption.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so as the PC has to go and explore and understand and deal with the aftershock or the ripple echo coming back on them of what they've done, right? As a PC, being that outside influence on your BBG or on a villain or on your target of your redemption, right? You have to then go with them on that journey for that journey to make it impactful, right? You have to explore the broader impact of their redemption as the echoes come back on them, as the aftershock comes back on them. Because if you abandon them, you've just done what maybe was done before, and now they've gone from bad to redeemed to even worse.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Because, you told me that the world...
Betrayal with my trauma, guys. I thought you understood this.
I thought you got this, that I was abandoned and left, and then the world was against me, and now I'm abandoned, and the world is against me. But because the target of your redemption has no control on the spotlight of the game.
Right. Yes.
You have to be there to experience their story for their story to continue to have impact and matter.
That's a great point.
Right? Because the DM can't just be like, and in another tavern, somebody cold cocks you. And you're like, what? I'm not even there. And you're like, no, it's not you. It's the BBG that you abandoned in the last town.
Right. Just
way to go.
The BBG can't redeem themselves.
No.
Right? Yeah.
And so we have to not forget that one individual's commitment to change, right, can inspire others to reassess their own paths.
Right. Yep.
Right. And so it's that continual maintenance and continual updating of that on the NPC that will keep them on that straight and narrow. Whatever that straight and narrow of redemption looks like. Right. And even better, if you can find a symmetry or solution to the problem in the means before the ends of their goal, right? You can prevent that like arcane ritual on the mountaintop in the blizzard where they're summoning a bigger bad. And you're just like, no, your wife actually said she loved you. And
she was right here.
So we forgive us, we kind of resurrected her and brought her along so that she could, have that last dance. He's like, oh, and his tears. Whatever they do. If you can find that, and even if the DM or the PC can find that normal symmetry that they have anyway. So a lot of times, like we were talking about in villains, they take an opposing solution to something very similar to that a PC would have done. Right. And so the PC went on the road of good and they went on the road of quote unquote evil.
Yeah.
Right. And finding the symmetry in the PC party or the PC character, if you've got one specifically entwined with the story of this villain or BBEG, that's a great way of going, no, this was the moment where you passed and they failed, right? And that forever changed them just like it forever changed you, but you didn't notice because you did a good thing and you were sad for a little bit. They did a bad thing and they learned rage and anger and that got a hold of them. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So finding that symmetry in the means before the ends can really be a powerful moment of kind of cutting things off beforehand. But that relates right back to understanding what that point was that set them off. Where did they fail the first redemption task or milestone?
Yes. It's interesting because I think as a DM, if you get this feedback from your player saying that, oh, I want to redeem this character, and you you don't shake your head, you need to go in and like figure out your points of redemption, I think.
Well, and if we're talking about a villain or a BBG, you've probably already done the work to figure out why they are who they are.
Yes.
Right? If they're a thug or a bandit or a bad guy, you haven't. And that's great because they're not as important to your story.
Yeah.
But if it is a villain or a BBG, as you're saying,
Yeah.
then you've already done that work. You already know what makes them tick. Right?
Yep.
And you've already planned and plotted that stuff in. And as the DM, you can plan.
It's
right?
funny.
You have way more control in that
and
sense.
your point of redemption are from the other side now, right? As opposed to from the player side, it's from the other side. So we have to think about it from the other side.
Yeah,
because it's a little bit different. It's the same, but a little bit different. I think. Yeah. So
give and take, twist, Korean art. And yeah,
I hate that. Anyways, it's so
can't hate love. It's Christmas.
It's not love. It's just two fingers. Anyways.
Nope. Skipping past that joke. So, like I said before, when you go to redeem the BBG or villain or whatever, right? What does this mean for the world is a question you need to ask yourself as a PC and as the DM, right? Now that they are no longer a force for evil, they are still potentially a force for change or a force or a catalyst for something else. But the dragon is no longer terrorizing the people because the people agreed to pay the dragon a safety tax. Peace reigns. Okay. But that dragon was also fighting off bands of whatever and, creatures of all sorts of CR values and blah, 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 blah. And now that he no longer has to go to this town and get money, he's no longer patrolling the lands in between. Right. Is that a backlash? Right. And now do they have to pay him extra for protection on top of just safety? What kind of questions can you come up with to just say what happens next? This happened, therefore these things are going to start happening.
Yeah.
Right. Or a lieutenant in that organization, because you only got the big guy. A lieutenant's going to take over. Are they better? Are they worse? Do they have different motivations? Yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Right.
Do they feel betrayed?
They feel betrayed. The cycle continues.
Oh, I know how that feels.
I empathize with you, big bro. Come back to us. No. Dominate.
That's what your brother, your DM's like, not this one.
Not this one, boys. Not this one. That's hilarious. And so where does this lead us? What is the pot of gold at the end of the redemption arc? Should be magically delicious. I think part of it, and looping back to kind of the very, very top, right? Why is redemption, I'm going to dare to ask why, but why is redemption so interesting to people? Why is redemption a holiday kind of hallmark experience? Right? I think that we all have, for better or worse, kind of a desire for mercy and redemption in ourselves.
Of course.
Right?
Of course.
I think these arcs...
That's what I was thinking.
Nice. These arcs come across as both kind of hope and optimism in us, in people.
In people
playing it, people observing it, people watching, right? Because mercy and redemption are both really associated with hope and optimism, right? Hope and optimism is the thing that will pull us up by our bootstraps, right? Is the external thing that can help us, because that's that twist that we're all looking for, so that something is slightly better than it was, right? And sometimes that's a lot harder in real life, or exponentially harder,
so much harder
than it is in the game. But we can experience it in a small way, and that dopamine dose, or that, I don't even know which chemical it would be.
Or in some ways, maybe understanding the character's redemption and their struggles through it will help you with your own in some ways and give you hope too. Something like that.
Well, that's what I was gonna say.
Oh, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead.
No, it's
my
super
turn
good. Yeah, it's your turn to do it. Finally. Oh, another Christmas gift. Yeah, because if we remember, our brains don't classify out real life
Oh,
and what
yeah.
we consume.
So funny.
They're not different things in our memory banks.
Yeah.
So if they can do it, you can do it. And if you can do it at the table, then you can do it in real life. Right?
What?
And so mercy.
Fireball.
Keep working on it. Mercy is going to provide hope for those in need, right? And redemption is fueled by our optimism
Magic mouth.
for the positive change in us.
Yes.
Right? So these things bring us together in a warm, fuzzy way
Mm-hmm.
because this is the glue that can hold some of these kind of broken, sharded parts of ourselves together.
Yes.
Right? And that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So however you get that, however you learn that, right? That's going to develop within you the resilience to bounce back from adversity, whether in game, right? And to role play out that moment, or in life to role play out that moment.
Yeah.
Right? It's to learn how to keep striving for a goal when the world is set against you. Right? These lessons that we can learn if we choose to view them as lessons instead of just fables.
Well, all the fables are based on lessons, right?
Yes.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
And it's always a moral of the story.
There's always a moral to the story if you choose to look for it.
Yeah.
Right. And so when we're going through these things, I think maybe this is too touchy-feely or whatnot, but I do really think that this is is really something that we can do for ourselves because we can save ourselves.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so this is really going to affect us in all ways. Going through the story is not only emotionally going to kind of ground us and keep us moving forward, but it's going to add to our psychological well-being, right? If this is theater of the mind, TTRPG, then in the mind you are healed from these stories.
Oh, it's Theater of the Mind podcast. For you those of you listening.
Yeah. We're just pointing at our heads. It's important though. I really think that it is important to give ourselves these breaks. And this is wherein we find these acts of redemption or these stories of redemption, like the Grinch, like
the
Scrooge. New York, we're still waiting. But right, these stories do inspire certain things within us. And that's, the holidays are a time for forgiveness. We're almost at most people New Year's. China, you'll catch up in a bit. But it's a time for change. It's a time for just like letting bygones be bygones, right? Accepting our past that we can't run away from and then moving forward into the future, right? So these acts of mercy, these experiences of redemption really contribute to our psychological well-being. And they foster these positive emotions that give us a sense of purpose, that really like show us not only who we can be, but they improve our sense of community as well. Because if you can do it and I was there with you, now that's a thing shared.
Yes.
Right? It's not a trauma shared, it's a victory shared, right?
Yes. And it brings you closer together.
And that's why people like each other generally better at the end of campaigns than they do at the beginning. It's a bonding experience.
I think generally.
Generally. I've seen those stories. But I think that's what, that's part of the reason why I think we kind of picked this topic.
Yep.
Right. For this time of year. And why so frequently holiday seasons are chosen to show a change of character and a choice of a better
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that was really nice.
So
Nice.
hopefully you found enough in here so that you can set off for practice redemption before you find real redemption. And if you happen to be in some sort of state institute serving some length of time, that you are on the path to redemption.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, our demographics don't show how many
or where
subscribers are. New. But if you are,
call it or not, I don't know.
No, we got to get on the list. It's really difficult. Yeah.
But in any case, thank you guys so much for joining us. Season's greetings. Happy holidays, and have a wonderful New Year's. This has been Caffeine and Cantrips.
I was Byron.
And I'm Sean.
And we will catch you next year. Or else. Yeah, I have a bigger head than you do. I have a bloody great big head. I've known that for a long time.
The great big brains you have.
Poor mama, as she spat out a wee trembling, screaming bitch
Sure did.
from hell. Hell bitch. That laugh. Yeah, that was.
Because it's funny.
It is pretty funny.
Hell bitch.
Hell bitch.